The agenda is the pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next item is an update on and reasoning for not releasing data quest report until after the superintendent's status has been determined. The reason that I went before the Board of Selectmen on the 11th of January was to maintain, I was getting blistered by media, newspapers, audio, radio stations, and just about every media source you could think of trying to get this report. So I thought it would be a good idea to make a public statement and be fully transparent. Now, maybe after the fact, maybe everyone could possibly think that maybe that wasn't a good idea, but I thought it was a good idea to address the selectmen and get that message out there that we had to maintain the report based on past practices and the law and what our previous protocol was with the school committee. We had never released a report before a matter had been completed, especially something that may contain personnel records. However, we've had a executive session today, and this next motion may help to shed some light on what is in the report. So I'm going to make a motion. I move that I move that the school committee add a item to the agenda for a vote to release the report, investigative report, a redacted investigative report, as soon as it's available. By the probably, I should say, tomorrow. Do we have a second?
Second to add it to the agenda.
Do we have any discussion? Hearing none, we will have a vote to release the redacted version of the investigative report.
Added report. Added to the agenda first.
We're doing the added agenda item. The added agenda item is the vote. The vote is a roll call from Mr. Schmidt. We're adding an item.
Yes.
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 So now we have an item on the agenda where we can make a vote to release the report.
So this is a motion to release the redacted report as soon as it's available?
Yes.
Is that your motion? I'll second that motion.
The motion, and any discussion, but the motion is to release the report, redacted report, as soon as it's available from our attorney, who is going to send it to us as first thing as soon as he can in the morning.
So just to clarify, the redaction is only in regard to student information, confidential student information that we're required to keep confidential. Is that correct?
That's correct. Is there any discussion? And full understanding of the vote? And so we'll roll call for Mr. Schmidt.
Yes.
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 Yes. Thank you very much, and so that report will be released. I'm hoping by noon tomorrow, and I'm sure we will have contact with the assorted media as soon as the sun rises. Next item on the agenda is update on the pace of the investigation into the superintendent's home visit of September 29th, 2015, and the process going forward. Well, it was a little bumpy trying to get this process started. We had a date to have a discussion on what to do and how many, and also the proposals to look at, and we wanted to have started right away, but we had a quorum issue. There were only 2 members in town on that particular day, so we had to cancel that date and move it to another date. And then we finally did have procure a investigator who did a wonderful job in terms of being cordial with our are the people we wanted to interview, and they were very delicate with sensibilities towards all the subjects, the persons, I should say, who were Mashpee residents who were concerned, who may have had employment issues, family issues that prevented them from immediately interviewing as rapidly as we all would have liked. However, the report has been completed, and we are grateful that the public and the public employees both participated. They had no right, they had no reasoning to participate. They were not compelled, but they did cooperate, and we were very thankful. As of going forward, we are going to wait until the criminal portion in the court is completed, until we make a final determination on the employee status. And we've all made that decision. And that may take some time. We don't know whether this case could be extended or moved to another venue, or we don't know what is going to happen with the district court process. So I think we all know that courts take time, but the employee and his legal team are trying to get the quickest possible resolution as they possibly can, and we hope for that as well. Does anyone have anything to add on that subject?
I just wanted to interject on the comment that we will wait. We discussed that we may possibly, and it may be in our best interest, but we haven't actually officially decided as a committee that we definitely will wait.
Well, we didn't have a vote, that's true, but no one has said that there was no indication that we were interested in making a decision right away.
No, you're definitely right, but I just want to make sure that, it's clear that just because we didn't make a decision that we don't necessarily want to wait doesn't mean that we will.
And we do have a tentative meeting scheduled for next Thursday to discuss just this.
That's true. But as far as I understood, that we were going to wait for the criminal proceedings to be completed, and that's what I understood. If something changes before that, that's different. I'm looking at the longer range, is that the final is the criminal charges are either innocent or guilty, and then we have a determination then. But if something happens before that, I'm more than willing to entertain it. Next item on the agenda is public comment. First, public comment is 20 minutes long total, so please be courteous of the persons behind you that want to speak and leave some time for them. First is Art Wonder.
I'm not sure the protocol here, but I assume I'll introduce myself. So, Art Wonder, everybody hear me all right? Art Wonder, I'm a Mashpee resident since 1998. I've had two kids graduate Mashpee High School, and one who's looking to graduate in 2018. Looking forward to that. Thanks for allowing us time to speak this evening. Leaders are sometimes called upon to make difficult decisions. True leaders recognize those times and have the courage and fortitude to make the tough calls. This is an issue about leadership, and this is one of those times. Since the 29th of September, the issues stemming from the actions of our superintendent have distracted us from the real mission of the Mashpee School District, that of educating and preparing our students for success in life after high school. To quote from the Mashpee School District Mission Statement 2014, the mission is, quote, to prepare all students to be college and career ready and to value service to others, end quote. To quote from the Mashpee School Committee mission statement, quote, the overriding goal of this program is to prepare students to be confident and capable lifelong learners who possess a strong sense of community that will be evidenced in each student's contribution to society over a lifetime, end quote. That is the job of the superintendent. That is the charge to the school committee. And that is your collective leadership challenge. Quite simply, it is about the students. Let me be clear. This is not a personal attack on Mr. Hyde. I am not questioning his role as a father, coach, or teacher. However, I am questioning his ability to lead the school district and favorably and positively represent our administrators, teachers, and most importantly, our students. Our district has worked incredibly hard to build and maintain a favorable, positive reputation in the community and in the state. One which I believe our town and our students are incredibly proud of. Unfortunately, Mr. Hyde, through his actions, and his actions alone, has dealt a severe blow to what so many have worked so hard to build and nurture. It should be perfectly clear to anyone who has read the police report from the incident at the King residence that the resultant actions are 100% Mr. Hyde's fault and his fault alone. Mr. Hyde is not the victim here. He has brought this upon himself. This is about responsibility and accountability. A lesson I am sure we want to pass along to our children and students. His actions that day were not in concert with those of the office of the superintendent, and as a result has brought discredit, humiliation, and embarrassment to our town, our district, and most unfortunately, our students. As a minimum, his conduct is absolutely unbecoming that of the highest position in our school district. It is time Mr. Hyde owns those actions and is held accountable. As you are aware, this issue has been divisive in our town. We should not be divided when the end goal is the betterment of our children. A true leader would realize that his actions are negatively affecting the very students he pledged to serve. A true leader would recognize that his actions are prohibiting forward progress in their mission to serve those students. A true leader would recognize this difficult decision and have the courage to make the right decision, however tough it may be. However, if that fails to occur, I call upon the leader sitting before me to make that decision. The time has come for Mr. Hyde to relinquish his position as superintendent. Our town depends on it, our district depends on it, our students depend on it. Leaders make tough decisions. It's time to make them, and we owe that to our students. Thank you.
Next, we have Betty Kelly, please.
Thank you for allowing me to speak this evening. My name is Betty Kelly. I live at 7 Portside Drive and have called it home for the last 16 years. Although I have neither children nor grandchildren in the Mashpee School system, I am a taxpayer. And it is my understanding that reimbursement for each non-resident student is $5,000, while the cost to educate that student is $12,000. Thus, a $7,000 deficit to be made up by we taxpayers. Mashpee seems to be filled with anger, needs to retaliate over the fact that the superintendent, Brian Hyde, apparently pushed the limits of the school's residency requirements by personally checking out the situation. No one was physically harmed. No one lost money as a result of the visit. I'm at a loss to understand why this incident has required lawyers, police, suspensions, recall, multimedia coverage, and more. Does every action in today's world have a revengeful dollar sign attached to it? Whatever happened to apologizing and getting on with life?
Yeah.
Phyllis Sprout, please.
It's a two-way street.
Good evening, Superintendent Board. Scott McGee, Chairman, and members of the board. Thank you for letting me address the committee. My name is Phyllis Sprout, and I live at 91 Quinnipiac Avenue. I served on this board for 2 years, once with the previous superintendent and 1 year with Superintendent Hyde. I was there for contract negotiations, and I can tell you that we were very careful about how that contract was written, because we had seen what had happened in other districts when almost like a boilerplate contract was hastily put into place. But that did not happen in this case, because we understood that contracts not only protect people, but districts. So I hope that this committee is very careful about what they do with their contract. It's my understanding that it is the job of the superintendent to make sure that students are legally residents of this town when they attend this school district. And I know that from the 2 years I served on the board, that issue never came up. Although we suspected that there was some drift from students living in another town coming and attending school here. We couldn't prove it. Frankly, we weren't interested in it. We were more worried about dropping enrollment. But that wasn't the right way to approach the problem. And if Mr. Hyde decided to stick by the law and investigate the way he was legally responsible to, I applaud that. But what I do not accept is this trial by media. I think I'm the only one here who went through trial by media, and I wouldn't wish it on anyone. You cannot assume that the person who goes to the press first is telling the truth, and then assume that the person who responds is lying just because they're second in line. It doesn't work that way. Sometimes people step back and they say, we're going to let things play out. If you have your say, you assume that you're telling the truth. But I don't think I hear that in this case. I think people have been rushing to judgment. And I know what it's like to make a statement and then have everybody ignore it completely, including the press. So I'm hoping that this committee will step back and take a long view. You're looking at one incident with two stories. Somebody's lying. I don't know who it is. That's your job. But make justice the primary goal, not just the thing that the media wants. Because they didn't get paid for scandal. They did prove circulation. Sorry about that, but it's true. And I'm an advertiser. So, yeah, it's hard writing those checks. So, you've got nothing to lose by waiting. You really don't. And justice to Mr. Hyde will benefit the district, will benefit this committee, will benefit the town. Let the truth come out. That's all I ask. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is approval.
Excuse me, you still have a few minutes. I didn't realize we had to sign up. I'll be very brief. Be very brief.
Go ahead.
My name is Kevin Scully. I know the five of you know who I am. I own property in Mashpee since 1997 and have lived there for the last 10 years full time. There seemed to be some confusion at the opening of the meeting about Mr. McGee saying that there would be no decision made until after the legal case is determined. And I seem to hear from Mr. Santos that that was not necessarily accurate. This is not an issue about the superintendent as far as I see. This is an issue that is economic, fiscal, ethical, and moral. I don't know what went on September 9th at Marilyn King's house. But what I do know is that the five of you five gentlemen who have put yourselves on the line, you ran for these positions, you obviously have a great deal of interest in the educational system here in town, and I applaud your efforts. The five of you need to adjudicate this case. What goes on in Falmouth Court is certainly an issue that will have an outcome of its own. But this town needs an answer, and they need it from the people that they elected to assume these positions of responsibility here. And, you know, I'm sure no one is as tired about the last 4 months than the five of you. But, gentlemen, something has to happen, and it's got to happen soon. This has dragged on for far too long. I believe the five of you have the ability to come to a decision and make that decision.
We'll now move on to approval of minutes of January 6th, 2016. We'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the January 6th, 2016 minutes as written.
Second?
Any discussion?
I do have a question on page 2, item 10.1. The last sentence. Just a clarification, because that is not what happened. So are we correct?
That's what we're
It's
saying.
what was said. It's not actually, it's not like an indication of what happened. It's what was said.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, I think so, but. You satisfied? Okay.
That's fine. Just wanted to point that out.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll roll call for Mr. Schmidt.
I abstain.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Minutes are approved. Next item on the agenda is an update on preschool start time, and we have Principal Wendy Lithman, please.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good to see you all. Welcome back, Mr. Schmidt.
Thank you.
So you have in your packet a proposal, I'm asking for your support, and changing our start time for the preschool program. We presently have a preschool that runs at the same hours as the rest of the school day. Starts at 8:20, our normal school day, and ends at 2:50, the 6.5-hour day that all students have. I've outlined 3 different reasons as to why I'd like to see the change made. But what it really gets down to is I really feel that this would be in the best interest of the children. When we look at the children are 4 years old, and many of the teachers have said that by the end of the day, they are truly spent. Any of you, I know that many of you have children. You remember your children at the age of 4, and this is a very, very challenging. We're trying to increase the rigor there as well, and they're just exhausted. So the way the program is currently structured, they have that day, and towards the end of the day at approximately 1:45, each one of the classes have a 45-minute enrichment period with one of our specialists, art, music, physical education, and so forth. And that period is slated as a 45-minute period because we have contractual obligations to the teachers to provide a daily prep period. So that right there is a source of concern for the teachers and myself. A 45-minute period of time for these children to be focused on one activity can be challenging right there, and especially after such a long day that they've been going through. After that, we are also required with standards for high-quality preschools to provide for our students a rest period. If the day in a preschool classroom at this age extends beyond 6 hours, we are required to have within our schedule a scheduled minimum of 45-minute rest period time, coupled with allowing children to continue their rest if need be. So for example, if a child falls asleep during that 45-minute period and wishes to sleep, we let sleeping babies lie, so to speak. And there are many children that do in fact take that time and do need to fall asleep. While that is happening, some of the other students are asked to remain quiet, to be respectful. During the initial 45-minute period of time, all students spend a very quiet time in a mat sort of area. So those, just outlining both of those reasons there, by bringing this day and starting it at 9 o'clock,
This would allow our students to not be there for that full, more than 6 hours. It would be 5 hours and 50 minutes. We would not have to have that nap time. Some children may still need to rest. There are differences in children, and we would certainly allow that if need be. But we would also have our teachers all present starting at the standard time that the teachers come in. They would be able to have their prep period during that time, and we could have our enrichment period still in the afternoon, but with the support of the classroom teacher. They'd be more integrated. The specialists would have additional support in the classrooms to keep the children focused, but they could be more concentrated, even brought down to the 20-minute or 30-minute time that would be more conducive to their attention spans. So I think educationally it makes sense to do that. The other concern that I have is the safety of the students. I don't know how many of you have been to our school. I know you have, Mr. Myers. First thing in the morning, we have a large traffic congestion problem. We have, most parents do bring in, we offer free transportation for our students that are in that pre-kindergarten program that we're talking about. But it's kind of hard, I think, for parents to place their young children on a bus in the morning, and many of them choose to drive their children in. As a result, that increases the amount of traffic in and out of our school. You can imagine with that number of children coming into the program that you're going to have increased traffic. With that, the parents then need to walk across the traffic through a parking lot that has a lot of traveling cars, oftentimes carrying an infant in tow along with their preschooler. And I frankly get very concerned about the safety and with so many cars around there. A later start time would alleviate some of those traffic congestion problems and allow families to be able to more comfortably bring in their children. We also encourage families to bring, parents to bring their children right to the classroom. It allows a period of time where the classroom teachers can, in fact, here establish a little face-to-face time with parents and increase that family involvement right from the get-go and establish a relationship with the school district. With that being said, first thing in the morning with all those people coming in, it's sometimes hard to distinguish between some of our preschool parents and some of our other parents, and we're trying to develop independence in our older students. So we have many adults coming into the building at a very, very busy time. We live in a world where we get very concerned about security issues. And having that many people come in and try to check all those as you're bringing in 400 some odd students in the morning can be challenging for security reasons as well. I think that those are kind of the three main reasons I've thought in regards to this, and it's not listed here. I've tried to address some of the other problems that may come along with this. But I'd like to hear what questions you might have, and I may have already thought of answers, but if not, then I'd like to know. I did run it by the school council. They are in agreement with it. I've spoken with Acting Superintendent DeVore. She understands the reasoning behind it. And I have spoken with Ms. Brady, Michelle Brady, who's the Director of Special Education, and whom we really have established that program to make sure that we had programs for our special education students, and she also agrees with the decision. So, do you have any questions about it? We gather your support in regards to this.
I have one question, and this wouldn't be a deciding factor, I would think, at all, but you guys are the educators. I'll take your word on it that it's going to be, better educational. And I have experienced the traffic issue, and it's pretty bad, as well as the security issue. So, I think those are great reasons. One thing I wonder if it's been thought of or discussed with the parents is where parents might have students at other schools or also at that school that they bring to school as well. So if somebody has a preschool that doesn't have to be there till 9, and they're bringing somebody else to Quashnet or to Casey Coombs that might be a first grader, and they have to be there much earlier. Now it's really not a whole lot of time to go home, but at the same time you don't want to sit there for a half hour. Has that been kind of discussed with the parents?
We did do some sort of discussion around that. We were concerned that some families, for work purposes and for some of the reasons that you've highlighted, they may need to have their children there a little bit earlier. I have been in touch with Mary Bradbury, Recreation Department, and she runs the Kids Club. They are looking into the potential of having a before-school program there. Our program buses would be able to include that as one of our stops to bring children on over, so that would be a possibility. I also have been in the process of the very, very earliest stages. We talked briefly on the phone with Acting Superintendent DeVore, and I've spoken with some people at the high school about possibly having an early childhood career program, and perhaps some of the high school students could come over, and that could become the time that they may be doing some of the observation hours of young children right there in our school. So if that were the case, perhaps some students could come in some circumstances, and we'd have to look at those.
Good idea. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Could you fall into the same 6-hour rule, 6.5-hour rule though, if you had a child come to
I
a...
don't think we do.
Yeah.
Because even though it's at our school, it's not an educational program. It's more of a daycare. It would be something I definitely have to look into.
So you touched on it briefly in regard to busing, because we do provide free busing. So how will this affect those kids, and I don't know how many we have, who are utilizing that service?
Our buses for the preschool, we don't use the standard buses. We have separate buses for the preschool. So in speaking with Ms. Boyko, who arranges the transportation, she didn't think there was any additional cost. It was just a matter of setting it up for them to be brought in at a different time.
Oh, okay, so logistically it'll work. That was my bigger concern, with logistics.
Mr. Myers, it may work even better because the buses, because things would be clear, they would not have to back around the back of the building, which is what they're doing now. So when we get into those snow times, it would mean that DPW, if they'd be happy about that, might not have to shovel around back right away.
So you kind of addressed the early start issue, particularly in regard to the traffic and all of that, by moving the time back. Could you also explore changing the release time to deal with the problem in the afternoon?
I had considered looking at the release time, but I thought that would be a little bit more problematic, simply because we've got parents that are meeting buses in different locations. Families are already at work, and I think it's a little, for most families, it might be easier to adjust the start time as opposed to an end time, leaving work for their young people. And the other reasons is I think that there may be some bus conflicts when we get into that. Plus, we do have a problem with traffic. We've got, at that time of the day, we're getting people, buses are coming in. Let's say it's 2:50, so we're left at 1:50. We still would be obligated to get our lunches done. We're getting into that lunchtime, and I think there would be some problems in that respect.
Okay, so you did look at it.
I did look at it. I didn't look at it as long as I looked at this one.
Well, and you didn't touch on the other issue, which is encouraging the DPW via the selectmen to consider the Casey Coombs parking lot redesign as
I talk about that every single year. I bring them on over and say, all right, what are we going to do this year?
Just want to give you an opportunity to press your case there, since we do have our liaison in the audience, so that he doesn't forget, along with the other things that we're doing, that is something that would be very beneficial to the parents of 400 students who have to deal with trying to pick up their kids or drop them off. So just make sure he's aware of that issue.
I think he's got a so noted.
All right. Thank you.
Any other questions, concerns?
Well, entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion. So you're wanting to make this effective next year, right?
Right, for our next school year. And I wanted to try to get this on the docket now because we'll be, before you know it, getting information out to our families because we'll be having our registration process start before you know it.
So I'll make a motion that we accept.
For point of procedure, this is exactly what we got in trouble for last time. This is not on the agenda for vote.
So I will. Yeah, but we can add it for.
This is
It's
exactly
not
what
time
happened.
sensitive, is this time sensitive?
We are going to begin our registration process on March 21st. So it could come up for a vote, and I believe that it's needing, I'm asking for your support on this. I don't know, I don't know if this is approval, support, and so forth, but I hope that you'll support it. And just so that we can start getting our paperwork out to families as soon as possible, would be greatly appreciated before, as I said, we're going to begin registration on March 21st. We usually start advertising that from mid-February.
I believe that we have unanimous consent to, we agreed that we should go ahead, but, the committee can, make a vote next month if we feel. Yeah, I think that,
That's fine.
Yeah,
Add to the agenda.
No, it's
next
fine,
month.
to be fine. I'll go ahead and just kind of assume positive and that's the way.
I don't think you're getting
Thank
too
you
many.
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Look forward to it.
this time on the agenda is a business report. We have, School Business Administrator Paul Funk, please.
I'll start off with in your packet, you have your budget monthly report. As I've stated a number of times, we are now coming to the time of the year when we start to look at expenditures as totals. By the time we get through February, we're through the mid-month of January. Everything is positive. There's a few transfers this month just on a couple of line items that have gone into the negative. As you know, when we build the budget 21 months ahead, it's how we're going to spend the money. It's not necessarily where we spend the money. So that's why the transfer is taking place. I really don't have a lot other than the special ed out of districts. We still have people deciding there could be possibly a couple of more out of districts, possibly one, possibly. So that still looks pretty healthy, but if it's and every month that we get by, it gets to be money that we can use in other places. As we get into March, that's when I usually say my rule is game over, and we try to look at how we want to spend whatever the surpluses we have. And those are the things that we usually bring to the school committee. So at this time, I will entertain any questions on the FY monthly budget before I go on to grants, transfers, and some questions that were brought up at the last meeting, which I will discuss at that time.
So apparently you didn't get my email.
I did, and I answered it. You probably didn't get my answers back, but if you'd like to go ahead. I can answer them. I didn't bring them with me because I thought you might have gotten them, but go ahead.
Okay. So one of my questions was, to your point, we're halfway through the year, and so I just quickly was looking at, line items where we have not expended or encumbered anything for the year, and wanted to get an idea, whether or not we really were going to be spending that money, or if the purpose had changed.
Right. Well, I started to go through and look at some of those. Some of them were software line items, and I believe, and this is just, I'm making a general thing that the software is not up yet, the timeline.
Okay.
So it could be coming later. But one of the things that I want to point out on any zeros, before I can answer the ones that I oversee, but we do have a scheduled administrative meeting next week, and I'm on the agenda to discuss those, not only those line items, but all the line items in each of the schools, or budget managers, whether it be the SPED director or any other budget manager. As far as some of the line items that I oversee, a lot of them are the salary line items, like the extracurricular, we pay those at the end of the year. So that's why that money hasn't been spent. I did email you a figure on, I'll have to give you an estimate because I did not write it down. I thought you might have gotten my email on, I know one of the questions was on retirements, and that's going to reflect. At the present time, it's around $176,000.
So 176,000 as far as people who have indicated that they are
They're
intending
going,
to
yeah,
retire?
yeah, yeah.
And how many approximately is that?
Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that also includes other obligations that we had to pay out in the past month.
Okay,
And I did put that in the email. So it's about 6 people right now.
Okay.
But our projections, and I can get those to you, our projections are a lot higher than that. We just feel that we're going to expend possibly close to what we have budgeted this year.
okay. I know that. Isn't there a notification time?
Yeah, I'd have to
line
check.
that comes up sometime soon for that?
And that has been very loosely, that date, yeah,
Okay,
okay.
all right.
Was there another question on there? I'm trying to- That you had emailed?
Looking through, just,
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
I sent you that figure, what we have expended for negotiations and other legal, and that's the encumbrance. Is that the question that you?
right. So I was trying to get a sense of how much the school committee has expended on legal expenses, particularly in regard to the superintendent to date.
Around $5,500.
$5,500?
Right, but that does not include, one of the things that came up at the last school committee meeting was approval of the investigators. That does not include that.
Okay,
And these bills are only up until 11/30, November 30th, 2015. I know that I did review the bill from the investigator, but I don't feel comfortable with it because it was something that the school committee did outside. And I had sent a memo back to email, I think I sent it to all of you, saying that I didn't feel comfortable because a lot of times school committees in certain unique situations like we have right now, that they really don't want people in central office getting involved in that. And I just stated that I think some more backup, you might want to request more backup. Because I can't justify with the way the bill was sent to me,
okay.
you know.
You wouldn't accept it based on?
No.
Yeah.
Very shy of details.
Yes, and I think I conveyed that back to you people, and if I could get the details. And they've kind of said in the invoice that there's a short period of time, it's a 30-day type of payment. Not that I have any intentions of paying anything other than the bottom line on that bill. But I would like additional, you know, and I don't have to have it, but you have to have it and have the chairman approve it. I don't have to see what the detail is.
Okay,
Okay.
all right.
And you also are concerned with mileage, correct?
I was concerned with the mileage. Yeah, it's
Well above
well
the
above.
IRS.
Yeah, that's correct. That is correct. It was above the IRS.
Okay.
Any other questions on the,
Those were my questions.
okay? The grants, basically the grants are on a monthly drawdown. We with the DESE, you can see the expenditures here, the amounts received, and the amount of the awards. You can see that we still only have received one circuit breaker. I expect that to be in within the next week or so, the second, and then the last one, as you know, comes at the end of the fiscal year. So we'll get one in January, one around the end of March, beginning of April, and then the final one will come in the end of June, on June 30th. Are there any questions on the grants? The second piece was the second part of the revolving accounts. They're self-explanatory. You can see that one of the questions that came up at the last meeting was what was the balance of the school choice money at the end of the end of the fiscal year, last fiscal year, and that was $689,286.43. That was that's the choice money. As I had said at the last meeting, you do not want to spend because it gets adjusted at the end of the year based on the number of choice students that you have. It's also adjusted at the end on the special needs portion of the choice money that we actually apply for. So it's it could be a fluid figure from now until the end of the year. But in that case, that gives you some idea that we talked about, we'll be coming in the next few months talking about infrastructure as far as technology is concerned. So that may be where we're looking at that. And again, after meeting with the budget managers next week, I'll have a much stronger what they want to spend the money on. Go ahead.
So just to clarify, the 689
Yep.
will not change.
No, that's not going to change.
Okay.
No,
I
no.
just want to make sure.
No, the 689 will not change. But it's it's part of 903.
I know.
Okay. Yeah.
Right.
So there's your difference. That you would carry that over into the next year once we get that figure at the end of June. The last piece is the school lunch. There was a question on school lunch. The balance was $30,000. There was a $24,515 government wire transfer that came in that did not get posted. So the money is in. As of December, the money was in there, so it's up $54,000. And that's basically where you should be. And I think in response to that, I keep saying the same thing. We can run our school lunch program with the revolving account. It's when the capital expenditures and the repairs of the equipment that is now failing that is really affecting us. Yeah, go ahead.
I thought I recall us asking at one point for some sort of forecast in regard to capital requirements for the lunch program.
I can get that together for you
Okay.
and report it out at the next meeting,
Yeah.
at the next finance meeting that we have.
Because we are concerned that
Yeah.
the capital outlays, $50,000 can go real quick.
Yeah, it can, and and I just want to be perfectly clear. Out of that revolving account, all the food comes in, all of the we pay, everything is paid out of it. Benefits for all our workers, our cafeteria workers, all the food costs, health benefits. So it's almost like it's a private company working within the school district. Are there any other questions on the school lunch? The other question that came up at the last budget meeting was, or the last meeting, was a breakdown on the Chromebooks. In your packet, I have listed an update on the, I skipped over the budget transfer. I'll come back to those. In your packet, you have an update on all the Chromebooks that were purchased. There were 1,327 Chromebooks purchased. I broke it all down for you. These come right off the invoices. And you can see the cost of the invoice, the cost of the Chromebooks, the cost of the software that we put on them, the 3-year pickup on the notebook service, and then the actual install that was for each of the Chromebooks.
So based upon this number, does Yeah, we have, what, 1,650 students roughly in total?
Yeah. We'll be coming back, probably asking for more Chromebooks.
Okay, well, that I guess was my question was, at this, how close are we to having a Chromebook for every student?
We're getting pretty close. That'll be a discussion at the administrative meeting next week.
Okay,
We're getting pretty close.
all right.
I mean, are you talking in dollars?
No,
Okay.
actual physical.
Yeah,
I'm
I'd have
looking
to
at
get you
physical-
that number.
Physical units.
I tend to work in dollars sometimes instead of,
Well, like the kindergartens and all.
Yeah,
yeah, I wouldn't be,
So I
yeah,
think
no,
that they're
no, no.
included in the 1650, so
Right,
you take
right.
that
Yeah,
away.
we get, yeah, 'cause
Yeah,
so
I can get
we
pretty
basically
close.
have
I can get pretty close.
So we basically have 100% coverage
Yeah.
down to probably what? Second grade?
probably.
Probably.
Okay.
I can get you those figures. You know, I don't know how much how far, that's a discussion I have to, again, have with the principals on how far down do they want to go. Is it, do you really want to get down to the second grade? Do you want to get, started at the third grade? I think they do want to start it at the third grade, so, and it may be iPads that are moved down to the I'm not going to make that decision tonight, but I'll just throw it out there.
Yeah.
Because we do have iPads currently in the sixth grade. Yeah.
No, that's
So,
All right.
just to keep that in mind.
Well, you can just give us an update on next time.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Take care.
And this kind of drives home the point I made last meeting when, I specifically remember we had a pretty open and frank discussion about buying the Chromebooks. And I believe the number that we talked about was $250,000. I mean, that's pulling it out of my brain pan, so don't quote me, but it definitely was not $449,832. So, and this goes back to the same thing about, talking about technology and, there's people that are for it and people that are against it, but all along there needs to be a plan in place with exactly how much money we're spending and how long is this Chromebook's going to last. And we mentioned 5 years last time, that where you have a 3-year pickup and return notebook service,
Right.
So if we're going to bring this up again, I know this isn't you, this is speaking to everybody, that we need to really know what we're paying for, what kind of infrastructure is necessary to support it, what's the plan in place, all that kind of stuff.
And that's another thing that, I've already conveyed that back to the people that are asking for the Chromebooks.
Got it.
That you got to come to the table. If there's extra money at the end of the year and the school committee decides to fund Chromebooks, we got to have a plan in place, and we just can't come before you and say, well, we don't know what we're going to do yet, but, and that may not be the number one thing that everybody else sitting around the table. It may be the issue for one particular budget manager, but the other budget managers may have other things that they want. So that's a discussion that has to come to the table before it comes to the school committee.
Okay, so I'm a little confused because when I looked at this, I focused on what you had the box around, which is the 328, 210.
Those are the Chromebooks. Those are just the Chromebooks.
Okay, so the difference between the 328 and the 449
is all of these other things, and you can see I have the total cost out there. Like the 180, it's $30 for the perpetual license over the 3 years and so forth. So, okay.
So there's a big difference between the cost of the hardware and the total cost of ownership here.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Well, even the hardware, we're $80,000 over the approximate 250. So even if you took out the,
And you got carts and, freight. So I broke it down. This came right off the invoices. This is all of the invoices, the dates that they came in, the dates, and if you check back, that's when we asked for the transfers, so that, to pay for these. And remember, when we went back to that period of time, it was supposed to start it off like 9 to 12 or 7 to 12, then we kept moving down, so.
Budget transfer?
Okay, we're ready? Budget transfer is basically, it's only to take care of accounts that are in deficit. There was one other account in the in the budget monthly report, and that was for the nurses at the high school. We have a grant for that. So what's going to happen is the money, we do it with Monomoy Regional School District, and they actually do all the billing, and then what we do is we just send them an invoice, and they come back, and that'll wipe it out. So this will take care of the other deficits within the budget to actual. We have a transfer from decreases in athletic supplies by $6,092 and decrease in tuition member collaboratives. In other words, I'm taking money off the collaborative line, I'm going to put it into the private. It's just a transfer into the private tuition private school line because we have a possible student going out to a private school. That still leaves money on the collaborative line. The other one is just a movement within the $6,092 is just a movement between athletic other and dues and conferences, and that's just, again, to take care of those negative amounts. I need a vote on this.
Make a motion that we approve budget transfer 16-004 as presented.
Second. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call from Mr. Schmidt.
Yes.
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 Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Funk.
Thanks, Paul.
Next item on the agenda is FY16 tuition waivers. Acting Superintendent Patricia DeBoer has information on that.
So Chairman McGee and members, you have 3 letters in front of you coming from 3 different families. I think they might be stapled in an order that differs from how they are shown on the agenda. So the first one on the top of your packet is really identified as 10.2. It is a 5th grade student at the Quashnet School is the first letter, and she's requesting to remain till the end of this school year and that the tuition be waived. And all of the 3 that are included in this on this agenda will be either applying for school choice when the window opens or enrolling in the school in the town where they have moved.
Okay, now, the most important thing we do here is protect student privacy. So when we make motions, I think we should do it individually, but I also believe we should use just the initials. For example, I will go ahead first and I will say, I move to waive the tuition through this current school year, through the last day of school for student RS. Do we have a second?
Second.
No.
Do we have any discussion? Hearing none, we will roll call from Mr. Schmidt.
Yes.
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 Yes. Anyone want to take a shot at next?
I'll be abstaining from this discussion.
I move to waive tuition for student VR through the school year through June 30th, 2016 for student VR.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call from Mr. Schmidt.
Yes.
Abstain?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Next is student DH. I move to waive tuition for student DH through June 30th, 2016. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I have
Hearing
one,
none, roll call from Mr. Schmidt.
I have one question.
Oh, please,
There are
yes.
2 names.
I believe that's a parent.
It's a mother and a father.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah.
So we have a motion on the floor and roll call from Mr. Schmidt.
Yes.
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 Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, just one question relative to this, question that come up earlier in regard to the impact on the school budget in regard to retaining students for the rest of the year. Do we know what that impact is for these?
I can speak to that. There would be no impact because when we built this budget, those students were included. So there really isn't any impact. And, you know, it would just leave an empty seat. Teacher would have one less kid.
Okay.
An
Thank you.
empty seat that would not be available for a school choice student.
Right.
Right. That
Okay.
is correct.
And if I may, I just want to make sure, we will be sending letters from the superintendent's office to each student, being very clear on what we have approved and what notifications we will be giving to them when the school choice window opens. So we'll have a protocol for responding to these.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you. That answers the question.
Next item is new business. If there's anyone that has any new business they'd like to discuss or business they would like to bring up at the next meeting, which I believe the 3rd of February.
I just have one item. The Wellness Committee was supposed to meet today, and it had to be postponed, and we will meet on February 3rd. Main topic is the concussion policy update.
Anything further? Next item on the agenda is reorganization of school committee officers. I'm going to make a motion to table this item. Do we have a second? Hearing none, we will not table. Is there, there seems to be a reason some persons want to make a change in the order of the school committee officers. Could we have a reason for that?
I mean, I sent you an email on this, but yeah, we can discuss it. One of the biggest reasons why, you know, I feel as, you know, the public body, we do have a duty to the public, and I know you stated that you didn't really get the sense that the public didn't feel that way, but, you know, sometimes, you know, like we see with all this information going around right now about a bunch of different situations, namely the superintendent one, there are a lot of voices out there that are willing to step up. And sometimes the biggest voices aren't necessarily the ones that, you know, are the ones that really need to be heard. And, you know, it's not about personal feelings. It's not about friends. It's not about emotions. You know, sometimes decisions just need to be made based on the best interest of what the town feels, you know, with the given situation. I know there's a lot of questions surrounding the school committee. There's a lot of questions surrounding the way things are being handled, the town's being looked at. And this is one of those things where if we continue down the same path that we're going, there are, you know, I'm going to put it on the table and say there's a lot of questions, not necessarily from me, but from a lot of people in the public on your relationship with the superintendent, and that's not my decision to make whether or not that's true. That's, you know, we're on a public body. It's public perception, and like it or not, we have a duty to adhere to public perception and rectify that. So moving forward, it's in the best interest of not only this committee and the school district, but possibly even in the best interest of the situation surrounding Mr. Hyde, that we reorganize the school committee to alleviate any potential, you know, situations that may arise from the current situation. There have been some situations in the past that, you know, I myself as an individual on the committee would question the way they were handled as far as, you know, things that were discussed in certain meetings that we said we wanted to go one way and then they were acted upon a different way. Some of them I can't get into on an individual basis because they were executive session. But, you know, certain things as far as, you know, items that were said in public that were representative of the committee that weren't necessarily the ideas or the correct representation of the committee. One of them was here tonight, and I'm not saying that you did it on purpose. Sometimes it's a miscommunication. Sometimes it, you know, whatever happens there, but that's not, it's not necessarily acceptable as a chair in the in a public body. So, you know, that's just my opinion, and you know, the committee, we're going to put this to a vote. If the committee decides that they feel differently, then it doesn't pass. Other than that, you know, that's how that's the reason I had this added to the agenda.
floored because we all have the same relationship with the superintendent. All 5 of us have the same exact relationship. I'm an employer, John's an employer, Chris is an employer, Mr. Gomes is an employer, and Mr. Smith's an employer. What other relationship could I possibly have? Could I have an answer, please? And the other thing is, I'm not allowed to, I believe that we all agreed that we wouldn't have a decision on the employment status of the superintendent until the court decision was, did I misinterpret that? Could anyone speak to, I believe that's a long-range goal. I mean, I'm not gonna say that we're gonna have a decision next week, because that would be misleading people. The long-range, the last possible way we could make a determination is when the court decides what their determination is, and then we have another element that we have to envelope into that. I mean, if someone disagrees, please speak forward, but that's the way I look at it, and I don't see how that is different from what we all heard earlier today. And the other thing is, in terms of talking about, I've changed what our agreements were from previous meetings. I would like to have some, you could certainly state what those are without revealing what happened in executive session. And so my opinion is that this is either political or you believe there's malfeasance. And I haven't heard any malfeasance to this point, Mr. Santos.
I don't see why. Oh, sorry.
No, I just want to say, and we talked about, I mean, I've mentioned this before to Chris, that I think this is the absolute worst possible time to discuss reorganization of the school committee in this just divisive time in the district. With that said, I also have some concerns with the way things were handled at the chairman level.
I have a phone, I have an email, I have a front door.
That's why I was saying, because I've never had a problem with discussing it with you.
And we've had
I don't know,
those,
we
yeah.
need to air dirty laundry.
Yes.
So, that's my 2 cents. I just don't think this is gonna do anything except further divide the district when we have these kind of discussions in open meeting. There's been some things that have happened. We had a superintendent meeting that none of us approved, that was approved by you. We had a bonus that was, not fully vetted out, and yet it was paid. We had release of the final investigative report prior to the committee seeing it. So, I mean, there's been things that caused me concern, and we've discussed them all. So, I mean, none of that stuff should be a surprise.
Well, I'd like to address those. The first one, the superintendent meeting, I don't know what that is. Number 2.
We don't know what that is. We talked about it for 30 minutes.
What's
and he took full responsibility. We never discussed it in public.
What superintendent meeting are you talking about?
The meeting that he had in the district offices with Bill.
Yes, and I talked to him about that, and he said, I will never do that again.
Right.
And so we had a complaint. I sternly addressed the employee, and I said, if you ever do that again, you have a reason to fire you. And so he said, I'll never do that again. Although he did give me some reason for why he was doing it, and they all seemed pretty benign. But he said, to avoid any further issues, I will not do that. And as far as the bonus, we had a vote on April 15th in public session at this table to approve the bonus. And all those, after that, after the superintendent was involved in this incident, everything that happened, that he received the bonus and the performance bonus and all that stuff that he had done or not done, people have to look at whether they believe he did anything or not. But everything he did leading up to that bonus happened well before the incident of September 29th. And the third thing is I was getting blistered by phone calls from 2 newspapers about whether we were going to pay the bonus. Are you going to pay the bonus, and why aren't you paying the bonus? And please give us some information. And so either I was going to talk about it for the next several months, I'm going to hold off on it, or I look at it the other way and say that's an administrative thing from now on. The school committee did its job, and it's an administrative thing for the central office to pay that thing because we made a motion. We have no way to hold that, we have no way to legally hold that money. We have no way to, we could have had a vote. The members could have said, let's vote to hold that money. But at the same time, the bonus was given, so was a salary increase on the same day, in the same vote, in the same motion. Are we supposed to hold back the salary increase too? I mean, how much further do you want to go on this? We made a commitment, you stand up for the commitment. I don't like the motion anymore. I wish I'd never voted for it. I wish I could rescind it. All of us wish we maybe could rescind it now, but we can't. And so you make a commitment, you pay it. And what's the third one, Mr. Gorman?
That was the third one.
I know there's a third one, I want more. Give me more.
Well, you know, let me address the ones that you had mentioned.
No, let me finish up. So this has nothing to do with Mr. Hyde. It only had, my comment was, you know, again, this is, the concerns I had were the decision that you made for the meeting was done solely by yourself. The decision to call the administration for the bonus was solely done by yourself. The decision to release the investigative report to Brian Haddon's attorney was solely done by yourself. That is my concern. That's my only concern.
What report did I give to Brian Hyde?
He saw the final report.
I didn't do that.
So who did?
The attorneys do that. The attorneys.
And you're the only person that had the report.
No, the attorney had the report.
No, you're the only person that had the report from
I did not.
DataQuest.
I did not. No.
So DataQuest sent it to...
When I get the report, I read it immediately. I sent it. I have it in email. I have the trail in email. I sent it immediately to Jim Toomey. That's
Before we all saw it, before it was released as a final report.
That's right.
And
Absolutely.
he released it.
He had discussions with Attorney Mark Gilday, and he said tonight that he's never read the whole thing. He said he's read portions.
He's seen it. He has the report.
No, I don't think he has a report. He said tonight I've read portions.
Where did he get it from?
He got it from our attorney.
From Google?
Let's call Jim. He's driving home right now. We should have asked that question when Jim was here.
Yeah, I did ask the question. I
But
asked
he
him if he's seen the report, and he said he's seen parts of it.
You never said to McGee give it to him.
Why do I need to ask him McGee give it to him?
Because
You're the
they're
only,
accusing him.
because you had the report. You're the only person that's seen it
I
until...
gave it to the attorney. The attorney does what he does with it, not what I do with it. If I wanted to give it to Brian Hyde, I would have walked over to his house to give it to him. I wouldn't.
This is my point. This is exactly my point. You're in charge of the committee, so why would you have him release a report? It's in your hands.
What? I didn't release the report to Brian Hyde. I never did, and I never would. Because you know why? Because you would think that I was some kind of deviant to do that. Why would I do that? Give the report to Brian Hyde.
Okay, well then, we employ the town council, and clearly he's acting on his own as well.
I would like to ask, we can call him right now. I've got a cell phone, and you can put him on speakerphone.
I mean, I like that. I just, those are the concerns I had, was independent action without the full support of the committee.
The committee made a vote. You didn't vote on this bonus, and I understand that. Neither did George.
No, that's not I don't want to break into executive session, and now we're having a he said, she said moment. But at the executive session, no one there authorized the release of the bonus. There was no timing on the bonus. They could have given it to him at the end of the school year.
The authorization of the release was April 15th, 2015. That's it. That's the end of our duty on that. Our purview is not that. That goes on to the acting superintendent and Paul Funk, the business manager. After that, it's not our.
Then why did you have to call the administration?
Because I'm sick and tired of hearing it from the newspaper. I'm supposed to. Let's make a motion and put someone in this chair, and then they can deal with the newspaper all the time. When are you going to pay the bonus? When are you going to pay the bonus? When are you going to pay the bonus?
It was stated over and over again, though, that we don't let the media dictate what decisions we make. You know, we're talking about the media being involved in this whole situation, and we've been told over and over again, we're not going to allow the media to dictate this situation. And you're admitting that the media dictated your willingness to release that bonus.
No, because I presume that they're hearing from the central office that it hasn't been paid yet, and I can't understand why it hasn't. You're not understanding that our purview is only the motion. After that, what about, you're not talking about the salary increase that we voted on the same day. Should we have held back that too? You're not saying
that was
yes.
already awarded. Our purview is not to just vote on it. When you have an employee that's under, investigation and under certain things, our purview doesn't end with just approving a bonus.
Whether the employee is found guilty or not guilty, he gets the bonus.
He will get the bonus, but we did not decide on a time, and it is actually in those minutes that you will see what we discussed.
So when would you rather pay it? June 30th? Is that what,
Any time after the event would have concluded is what the committee had discussed.
Thank you. And that's
The
what we
event
did.
has not concluded and it was released.
What event wasn't concluded?
The event surrounding the superintendent.
We never made a motion in executive.
We did
session.
not make a motion either way, but it was discussed and you'll see it in the minutes.
I remember someone saying, you know, I remember someone saying, let's make them wait for it. That was the kind of discussion that was in there. That was, you're being punitive at this point. That's what, you want to be punitive towards the employee, you want to be punitive towards me. If you want to do that, make your motion, go ahead.
All right. I move that we reorganize the school committee officers effective immediately.
We need a motion in terms, you need to pick someone to be chair.
We need to have a motion to reorganize first.
That's already been done. All you need to do is pick up someone to be chair and make that motion.
No.
It hasn't been
You made a
done.
We haven't done anything.
Hasn't
We need a
been
motion on
tabled.
the table.
And no one forward, no one seconded. I can make another motion to second it. You know, if you want to do that.
Are you making a motion to?
Making a motion to reorganize the school committee officers effective immediately.
Which means what?
Which means if it passes, then we can reorganize. If it doesn't pass, then
All right, so you need a
everything
second.
stays the same.
You need a second.
For the sake of discussion, I'll second it.
Any discussion?
Yes, again, I think this is an inopportune time to reorganize the school committee officers.
I think that if you have an issue with someone, you directly address them up front and...
We have, Scott.
No, what I'm saying is that you haven't. You put it on the agenda. Jeff and I have had some concerns about things, and we've had discussions offline, not in front of cameras and television.
We've
If I have
went
an
back
issue
and
with
forth
you-
90 emails over the last week, Scott.
What's that?
So,
Well, no, what happened was, someone told me that you wanted to reorganize, so I said, do you want to reorganize? And you said yes, and I said, I'll put it on the agenda then.
we've
What I'm
had
saying is,
discussion.
before that, you could have said, McGee, I got a problem with you, and here they are. That's what I do when I have a problem with someone. I bring it up to them directly. I don't try and walk around the back and do it in the back door.
And we have, and not only that, but like I discussed, this is not a personal matter. This is not about what Chris Santos wants on the school committee.
This is what it was.
This is not. This
You
is
put it on the
about what-
agenda. You put it on the
Scott,
agenda, Mr. Santos.
We are a public body. We have a duty to do what the public deserves and what the public wants. And I understand there's a majority of the public that does not want this to happen. I understand that. With any situation, there's always going to be this side of the public and this side of the public that wants one or the other thing. It is our job to decide which one of those is what's best for the district.
Well, I'm glad we finally have
That has
a,
nothing to do with me. I told you.
I would like
from
to
the
say,
start.
Mr. Santos, I'd like to say that I'm glad that we finally have a healthy audience here, to finally, someone that's now finally interested in this school district. Thank you. You know, we've been here for years and years and years trying to fix this school district, and that's the only time some people want to show up. We appreciate it. Come next week. Come back in 2 weeks. If you'd like to speak out of order, you can leave the room. On February 3rd, you're speaking out of order. You can't just speak out of it in a public meeting.
But you're addressing us.
What I'm saying is, if the public would like to come February 3rd, we'll be handling more business. Call the roll for Mr. Schmidt.
And if I could address what you had said, just because I can agree to a point, but my concern with that is because of all the stuff surrounding it and because of the uncertainty surrounding the chair position and what's going on. If it doesn't happen now, if we continue to move forward and we reach a conclusion, well, I don't know what that conclusion is going to be. I don't know how the whole committee feels about it and what they're going to decide. There are always going to be question marks surrounding it. There are always going to be things that we don't know if they're happening correctly. Next week when we have a meeting, now, you know, I'm not going to say anybody's going to do anything, but we don't know.
You still haven't
That's
detailed any
my concern.
malfeasance. I'd like to hear some malfeasance. It's political, Chris. We all know it.
How is it political?
It's political.
This is a school committee. It shouldn't be political. There's
Trust me,
nothing
it's political.
about.
You can't detail anything.
I'm not
that's
going to
done
get
wrong.
into it, Scott. This is not.
It's political all day long.
What? Explain to me what politically I have to gain from
I
this.
don't think, if I can't explain it to you, then
I would love to hear the reasoning that I'm politically pushing.
it's a political maneuver. That's what it is.
Just give me one reason how this is political. How this benefits.
All
the
right,
political.
there are people out there that want to recall and they can't get it done because it's very difficult. And so
Am I involved in that recall?
we have the recall person in the room.
I can't control who shows up for public meetings.
She's here for one reason only, to see me throw it out. So go ahead and do it.
No, that's not the reason why I'm here.
We have another one speaking out. This is not your meeting, this is a public meeting. You cannot just speak out. Any chairman would tell you that.
Then stop slandering individuals.
I'm not slandering individuals. I'm stating fact. Get your recall done, I'll be here.
Okay.
And this, again, is exactly the reason why this is an opportunity.
Exactly. Finish your work, Chris.
Well, seconds on the table.
I mean, I'm not talking anybody into anything, and I'm not talking anybody out of anything. I can clearly see that already. I just want to be careful that everybody understand that at some point, all of this nonsense is going to go away. And I don't know if it's going to, what the turn of events is going to be. You know, the investigative report has just been finalized and just been released to the public. It's going to be released to the public when it's redacted. People are going to see what we see. But stuff like this, what's happening right now around this table, is going to have waves for a year.
Yeah, so let someone else sit in this chair, and then we're going to accuse him of malfeasance. Please do it.
So, I mean, I don't, I don't know, the word malfeasance is, I think.
Look it up.
Strong. No, I don't need to look it up.
You expect me not to get upset about this? You're out of your mind. I've done nothing wrong, everyone knows it. Now, if you want to find something wrong, go ahead. Roll call for Mr. Schmidt.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
I'd like to nominate Don Myers as the new chair of the Mashpee School Committee.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call for Mr. Schmidt.
Yes.
I guess I'm in an ignorant loss here to figure out exactly, I mean, if you say no for reorganization, then what do? Abstain?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we have to have a leader of the committee, so, yes.
Yes.
Abstain.
Yes.
Does there be a vice chair?
Vice chair.
Do I have a motion for a vice chair?
I'll do the chair.
I move to nominate George Schmidt as vice chairman.
Second.
Last time I'll do the